Yo, yo, good morning, GM.
GM.
How's how's your outlook? We're actually officially in the second half of the season, double digit weeks, week 10 gamer. Um weirdish slate, like we've been saying, the past few, like not been super high scoring, but now like there's not a whole ton of value. So I think scoring is going to be low in the real games and in DFS. So that opens up fun stuff for GPP pros.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you. I know that you're not the biggest Blender fan in the world, but when he talks
Oh,
about the weird slate, one of the things I think that's like he's totally right about is the pricing is very, very, very efficient.
yeah,
Like we've had weeks where like running backs get to 40% and stuff because they're just it's not that they're just the biggest smashes ever. They did smash, but their
yeah.
prices are off by over $1,000. Based on their recent performance, expected performance kind of stuff. And this week we just don't have anything like that.
Yeah, GM Puck and Frankie. Um, yeah, I mean, we'll get to running back, but I think for the past few weeks, DraftKings like motto has almost been like price everyone at 6K, and then you have like good prices and good spots. This week, you have like some good prices, but you don't have a ton of smash spots. So I think the chalk is like maybe slightly more fragile than on a normal slate or what we've been used to, especially at running back. And when you're looking at, I think I put a pull up, and I don't know if it's working, and if it is great, if not, I don't know. But we'll start at quarterback. Not a whole lot of games to be excited about in as far as stacking. So that like kind of reduces the quarterback pool. I think naturally there's only 10 games on the slate. We've got Josh Allen, or ETR's got Josh Allen in for a full workload. So that'll be interesting if he's in. I saw a report that he might actually be the backup, but then I also saw a report that he's at no injury risk. So I guess we'll probably find that out, obviously, in a couple of hours here. But quarterback is not super deep. Fields to Mahomes is probably going to eat up close to half of the ownership just among those three. So how are you looking at quarterback this week?
Yeah, I mean, I originally went into this week like Wednesday, Thursday, like, okay, like I'm super going to consolidate my QB field this week and just go with those three that you mentioned
Yeah.
because they're the only ones that really make sense. And then I thought, like, I'm gonna get cute and do a couple other things. Like, why can't Daniel Jones or Kenny Pickett or who is Josh Allen's backup that we were expecting? Case Keenum.
Yeah.
Why can't these guys? One of the biggest things about efficient pricing is that it also makes it difficult that if Patrick Holmes just puts up a good game, like the cost difference from him at 7,900 to somebody else at 5,500,
Oh, yeah.
like that's not good enough if they also put up a good game. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I still think it comes down to those big three. I've added a lot of Josh Allen, mainly as a leverage ownership pivot, because I think his whatever his ownership is, it's going to be less than what it should be. So in that
I
case, I
agree.
want some.
I agree.
Um, but I'm staying mostly on those four, and then I have some cutesy stuff outside of it.
Yeah, I think in GPPs, actually, like if you can sell yourself a story on a stack, like good luck, right? I think like I was trying to make a list of like guys you feel comfortable stacking, and it's like five or maybe six guys. So like keep that in mind. Like I think ownership is going to condense, but then again, like ownership at QB generally doesn't decide the slate unless you have like the Tua chalk week where he goes off, and then the Justin Fields chalk week where he goes off. Um,
Right.
so I don't know that you ever want to blind fade QBs, but I think if you can sell yourself a story on someone besides like these top three, let's say, on ownership, then I think it's a good.
Wow.
I think it's good.
Rashad White starting, by the way.
Oh wow,
Congrats, Pedro and best ball players.
yeah. I mean, hey, if you get your round, 11 guy to start in week 10, that's all right. Dude,
Right.
look at all these guys. Morning, 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 morning. GM.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Boys are back.
yeah, in cash, this is the lead. Like last week in cash, my cash lineup was like locked at this time and didn't change for the first time all year. And I don't see that happening this week. Like right now, my cash team is like this. And I don't expect like we'll get to it. But like I think cash playable QBs is Fields, like maybe Tua, probably not Mahomes, and I don't know. Um, we'll talk about Wofford and Colt McCoy. I don't think either project like at 4K. You jam them at 5K. I think they're just too close to like the actual good plays on the slate. It doesn't get you
Yeah,
enough.
I agree completely. I'm not interested in those two guys.
At running back, the story for the past few weeks, we've had a lot of smash plays at good prices. And this week, I think the spots are slightly less good for the cheaper guys. So we've been getting like the Tony Pollards at 6-ish K. Everyone in a good spot is priced up, 7-4 for Kamara, for Jacobs, Henry, Saquon are all in good spots, but they're priced up, which kind of leaves Damian Pierce as like the cheapest guy with a big workload, unless like Tony Pollard opens up, which I think is actually being projected to be the case now. So I think one thing to keep in mind that Damian Pierce, I do think he's a pretty good play. His workload is insane, but the reason why he's the highest owned and best projected isn't because it's like a smash spot, but because running back,
Right.
like top end of running back value is not as good as it's been in the past month.
Right. And I think that's insanely important. When we think about like, you got to decide good chalk and bad chalk. Like nobody, even when people say, like when Pete says don't play the chalk, no chalk November, like that's all a bit. Like you do have to play some because some of the guys get owned because they're absolute fucking smashes in the spot that they're in. And other times guys get owned because just their pricing for their workload and opportunity and things like that is just wrong. So that leads to good points per dollar, and that leads to a decent projection. But in this case, what's missing is, in my opinion, is the chance to absolutely just smash this slate open. I mean, sure, he's a rookie. That could happen, but it's unlikely that he can do something like that, like, Derrick Henry or Saquon could do in any week. You know what I mean? It's just, so for that reason, it's a very different chalk play than your
Yeah.
previous chalk plays, and you should just be aware of it.
Yeah. I think like it's a big decision. Like Damian Pierce, he's the most comfortable, like the cheapest, most comfortable guy, but is the guy with the 17-point team total going to bury you?
Right.
Probably, probably not. So like you can fade it from that perspective. If you're fading Damian Pierce, it becomes really hard unless you're going to take on a lot more uncertainty as far as workload as you go for those guys below 6K. Like I think Jamal Williams is in play, Tony Pollard definitely in play. Cheaper than that, you're taking on a lot of risk. Like I think we might both like Jeff Wilson just from like a game environment, and maybe he's like, teacher's pet with what's his name, McDaniel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you said, it's about, risk tolerance stuff. I do think there's plays underneath there. You mentioned Jeff Wilson, and I think you mentioned one more. I would add in like, David Montgomery, like now that Fields is running all over the place and stuff like that, like I think people have kind of forgotten the core message of the Bears, which is still like they're still going to run the ball like 30 times a game, and Detroit's a bad defense. And so anyway, if you want to take on some risk, David Montgomery fits. Why can't this terrible Bears defense let Jamal Williams fall in the end zone 3 times?
Yep.
He's in play. And then I've heard there's a big discrepancy between ETR and RG on Devin Singletary. They have him at like 15% owned. I think just because of a pricing thing. But
yeah, the price makes some things work. I don't know if he was getting steamed up while Allen was out, and if they've readjusted that or what.
Yeah, the game plan difference. Yeah.
Kareem Hunt is like at 5,300, like, in a large field, I definitely like that, especially stacking up that game. I wouldn't go with the one-off Kareem Hunt. I definitely like Kareem Hunt with Tyreek type stuff. Makes a lot more sense for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can sell yourself a story. Another thing to keep in mind, which is not super intuitive, is like Jerick McKinnon may miss. So that might get Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's like, I have to scroll to find, but I don't know. That's McKinnon at 4,800. Edwards-Helaire is at 5,800, I think, which is not a great price. But if you give him, a couple more catches, he becomes in play in a game that people want to stack. So we'll find that out in a couple of hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm skipping that spot purely because, Andy Reid doesn't want to run. They're not very good at running, and
Yeah.
allegedly their starter is Pacheco, but he seems capped at 5 carries a week. And like,
Yeah.
just what is going on there? I
I
can't
don't
play
know, man.
that. I would rather play Kareem Hunt anytime I thought I want to play a cheap guy from the Chiefs.
Yep. No, that makes sense. The other thing, Kamara versus Jacobs are basically same price in ownership, and Henry and Saquon are both basically same price in ownership. So it hopefully doesn't decide your week like in those spots. But do you have a lean like Kamara versus Jacobs and then Henry versus Saquon?
I do not have a lean in Saquon versus Henry. I guess I have a slight lean to Saquon,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's extremely close. Josh Jacobs, I have a lot higher than Kamara. I just think the narrative is set up really, really well for Jacobs. Like, he's a super, super narrative driven running back. Like, as soon as they get down a few points and this and that, like, his workload changes, their whole offense changes, and but when they're up, it's like feed Josh Jacobs time, and we all saw that when he was scoring 40 points a week. And I think this is
Yeah.
an opportunity where that could be the case.
Yeah. The team totals for like all of the good running backs are like fairly low across the board. Surprisingly, Saquon is like the highest among them.
Right.
I'll get to that a bit more later, but yeah, I think
Can I
like
ask one
running back,
question before we move on about
yeah,
Saquon?
yeah,
I see 20-25% ownership on different sites,
yeah.
but what I don't see is any shows at all
I
talking
agree.
about Saquon
Yeah,
Barkley. He has to come in lower, right?
I think his ownership is going to be like I don't
Yeah,
think he ever gets
8,600
up to
is
30.
prohibitive.
Yeah, it's really tough to get there.
Yeah.
It's really tough to get there. So I think his ownership won't like you could be very certain it won't get above 30, and I think you could even get it under like 20 potentially.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
super
looking
hard
for
to tell
15.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see Saquon at 15 to 20, and same for Henry too, because
Right,
it's like
right,
much easier to play these guys, or you go double pay down or something.
right.
Um, Wide receiver, it's a really interesting slate because I mean Tyreek is just breaking everything because he's a monster. Plus he's getting ridiculous usage. So he projects at the best, but 9,100 is pretty prohibitive on a slate with not a ton of value. Cooper Cup is like fairly not in play with John Walford, but maybe you'll tell me otherwise because Matt Stafford sucks. But like, um, you know, Stephon Diggs, there's some uncertainty around Josh Allen's availability. So the pay up receivers, like many of them kind of got wiped with DeAndre Hopkins and stuff. So now Tyreek looks like even better comparatively versus like your other options. But Monroe is going to get some ownership, and then there's a bunch of like guys around 4K or just over 4K that you're gonna sell yourself a story, and they're all gonna be like 20% owned. You're gonna feel like gross for playing the guy who's gonna score like 6 points half the time and 12 points the other half.
Yeah, I totally agree. Tyreek Hill's team really surprises me. Just 9,100 to see above 20% is that's kind of scary, but he is a very good player. There's a reason for it. Like, their offense is so condensed to just him and Waddle. And, this is the kind of week where, I'm going to play some Tyreek Hill, but I absolutely have no issue just playing the Waddle side
Sure,
because,
sure.
it could be Waddle week and you save that $1,500. And also, Waddle is priced in no man's land for a wide receiver,
Yeah,
too, like,
nice.
people can pay a high price for a good receiver, but for a wide receiver, too, generally, 7,600 is quite prohibitive. But these are two of the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL on stat sheet. So maybe they will, but I doubt it. I think Waddle goes way under the radar. And you know, that being said, I think there's a lot of easy pivots for like GPP kind of stuff. Like, you know, Devontae Adams, I mean, put a 40 burger up last week. It didn't have a catch or had one catch in the second half. Like,
Yeah,
and he was super pissed off about it. So like maybe
yeah,
they feed him. Steph Diggs is returning, or I guess it's in Buffalo, but playing against Minnesota, I'm sure he's going to be hyped up. Josh is there.
nice.
Minnesota secondary is terrible. I like spending that receiver. This is part of why Jeff Wilson Jr. is in my plans, because I think it's easy to get different with super good unowned receivers.
Yep. For those of us not watching the Berlin game, thanks for the Lenny update. G Worst is probably absolutely smashing the showdown. I didn't play it, stick to the night games, but yeah, I think the consensus build is going to be 2 running backs with Damian Pierce or higher. Amonra, I think, is like an auto add, especially because he game stack with Fields and he projects like well, and you're going to tell me that he shouldn't project well because the projections don't know that he doesn't score anymore. But like the consensus build is going to be this, and then like Donovan Peoples-Jones and Matt Collins. So like this is one where the numbers or like the projections versus like clicking guys, like the difference between like if you play good projected plays or like the consensus build, and then you end up on like a 20% owned DPJ and Matt Collins, I think that's like kind of objectively bad. But like that is how you kind of make everything fit. So I think like it's going to be really interesting to decide how do you get different, either A, structurally and paying up at receiver, as you said, or like just doing direct pivots off of, those, and even Zay Jones. Like, do you go from Zay Jones to Marvin Jones? Do you go to MVS at 4,100? Do you go to Khalif Raymond at 4,400? Do you go to Treylon Burks at 3K? So like, I think in GPPs, I'm going to try and limit and not let myself play DPJ with Matt Collins too much overlap, because I think you're just going to get on the same build as everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
But I think that they're both like very in cash play. And we'll talk about like Justin Jefferson is going to get like no ownership. Devontae Adams, I think, is going to be semi-capped, and how high he's going to get. So I think like if you get up to Tyreek, great. If you don't get all the way up to Tyreek and you play someone else, I think it's a really good way to build too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Tight end, we've been playing RB in flex for, better part of a month. Tight end actually has like the 2 of the best, like value, like price considered value guys on the slate with Dolchich and Morrow. And there's actually, beyond that, there's still, a couple of other guys. So like, not only is it tough to build the lineups that you want without this value, but they're like legitimately decent plays. I think right now ETR's got like a combined 160%. So they're saying like 55% of teams are going to play tight end and flex. I would call that bluff, but a lot of my builds have it, and optimizers are going to have it because they just project so well and it lets you fit everything. So how are you thinking? Like, what's your like flex usage going to be position wise?
I'm getting to some tight end in the flex. This is one of these older school DFS rules that like some of them we start to break and they start to change, especially at different stakes levels and stuff like that. Like I'll play running back in the flex or running back with his quarterback are 2 examples of things that used to not be very, in. But tight end in the flex is still a tough pill for me to swallow in terms of beating 500,000 opponents and winning a large field GPP. But there are some weeks where it makes way more sense than other weeks. And this is definitely one of those weeks. Now, that being said, I'm with Dink and basically everybody else. Like when a tight end is chalk, super chalk especially, but when even chalky, like I'm just not interested. Like I'm perfectly happy to just roll out there with Harrison Bryant, Dawson Knox, Cole Kmet, guys that are literally just unowned, but have almost the same damn chance to just get a few catches and a touchdown. Sure. So the real question is just like, are you playing Kelsey or not?
Yep.
The one weird thing about Kelsey too is it kind of just annihilates those like 5K guys. Like there's no way that you could play a 5K tight end. Like unless you're pure ownership or
I haven't even looked at a 5K tight end. I didn't even know that they were on the slate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's hard to know it. I have to check my excluded because they're not in my player pool. But like Zach Ertz is getting targets, TJ Hawkinson and stuff, but it's just such a bizarro no man's land that you can't possibly play that. It's like you either play Kelsey or you play a lesser owned tight end that's 3,500 or less.
Hawkinson got pretty good usage considering that was week
Yeah.
one. I don't know if that was like welcome to the team, like let's see what you can do type thing. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to click like 5K, 5.3 for Hawkinson versus A, how much value you're giving up a tight end, and B, like at receiver and running back, you probably get a much better projection. But I wouldn't blame someone for trying to flip the build off of like, the 3-4-3-2. To your point, like I guess Evan Ingram, Harrison Bryant, Dalton Schultz are all
Yeah.
like not much lower probability of scoring 10 points versus, Dolce Chamorro. So it's tough to play, chalk tight end into 25% ownership when, how much are they going to bury you by? Like fairly low. It's so hard to build with Kelsey. So hard.
Right. And like Kelsey is like the only tight end where like it's just like the workload and the targets are just basically guaranteed. Everyone else, it's like, okay, yeah, it looks good. They do generally target them, but they could also just randomly disappear for a week. Like every other tight end can do that.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Tanner pre-HUD season.
Was that Siebes? I would have expected Tim, but of course Tim is not waking up yet, is he?
Yeah. Wait, Tim's here with us in spirit. So we'll start with the games.
Oh, okay.
44-point total. This one is kind of dependent. This, I think, is with Josh Allen projected in 44 total. Buffalo, which is the fourth slate. Buffalo's at 25. Not a whole lot of chalk here just because of the uncertainty. And if we I'd keep an eye out because if Josh Allen is full go, I think his ownership is going to be capped because it's like no one's been practicing building for the 8,600 QB. But if he's playing, I'm going to want to get over on him and Diggs and probably Dawson Knox too. Bringing back with Justin Jefferson and then I don't know is really tough, but I'm going to force myself to do that if he's in. Otherwise, not too much interest for me. But what have you got?
Yeah, I totally agree. I do think no matter what happens, Josh Allen's ownership is going to be lower than it should be. So in that case, I definitely am going to be over. That being said, on the Minnesota side of this game, like, I mentioned getting cute on some stacks, but Kirk Cousins, even though Buffalo's banged up in their secondary, it's just not a place I want to go. I'm not seeing myself get to any Kirk Cousins. Yep. Dalvin Cook continues to be priced like an elite running back when he's a bag of garbage. I don't get that. I'm not paying $8K for that. Justin Jefferson is going to probably be the lowest owned receiver on the slate, like real receiver, wide receiver one. So I definitely am going to be playing some Justin Jefferson. Diggs Jefferson mini stack is super expensive. It's going to be unowned, and I think it could be really fun. And then I've also done some builds just because, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are expensive. Why not Adam Thielen? I mean, he hasn't performed that well recently, but his targets are still there, and he's still a red zone target. And why not? No ownership.
Yeah, I think Hawkinson takes away some of Thielen's ceiling a bit. But yeah, if you play this, you have 4,200 per position. Like if you plug in, I don't know, Packers defense, which I think is like the cheapest playable one, you have 4,600. So like this is the type of build where you end up like on Burks, let's say, and then still only 5,200. So then you end up like, I don't know, let's say just Jeff Wilson. Let's say it's, I don't know, Montgomery. Like if you're not playing Justin Fields, maybe you want the leverage and then you have, 4,100, you go to like an MVS or something. Like I might actually enter this.
Right.
Let me enter this.
I may have already entered this, but
my
size is not your size, so you'll be all right.
Or like you play something like that.
Congratulations, Easy, you're in.
Yeah, but I'll just you play that with two tight ends or something. So I think like, and I'll edit these, but I don't want to lose my spot. Another pretty decent game. Detroit is at Chicago. Chicago, your Bears with a 25.5 total at home, 48.5 game total. Like who would have seen that coming? But I guess, Detroit is pretty bad. Maybe they're worse on the road than they are at home because somehow at home they've been suppressing offenses on both sides. Justin Fields going to be the top owned quarterback. I think Amon-Ra is going to be the top owned receiver. There might be like some Jamal Williams steam, but I don't think so. I'd take the under on 15% Jamal Williams.
Same.
What do we got here?
Yeah, I mean, what a game this has turned into on paper, right? Like, if you go through the first 3 weeks of the season and think about this game, and then think about this game right now, like
Mm-hmm.
how vastly different it is. It, um, what I keep seeing around the industry is that this game, like, yes, Justin Fields is a good play, and he's probably worth his 6,500, but his none of his guys project that well, so no one else is getting owned or getting carried with him. And basically, like, this thing has happened where it's just like suddenly JF1 has become a grown-ass man and is just like
A big
this
time.
top-notch bonkers quarterback because of all this running. But I would also say to you that his passing has improved dramatically since the Washington game. Ever since that game, if you look at the efficiency of his passing and punching it in the red zone via pass and stuff like that, like, I don't see any reason why this game is not definitely stackable.
Yeah.
With Fields with a pass catcher. I'm going to do a little bit of two pass catchers. Two pass catchers got there last week. I do
That's like
agree
three
the
touchdowns and
consensus. Yeah, I do agree that that's probably not the best way to play Fields.
yeah.
I like him with one pass catcher and a run back, or even two run backs, considering how bad the Bears defense is. But
Yep.
I'm full go on this game. I'm stacking it every which way that
Yeah.
you can, except with Jared Goff. I have no interest in Jared Goff. I just
Yeah.
don't see the game where
I don't see the
he
ceiling
puts
for
up a
Goff.
number that devastates you. Yeah.
I don't see the ceiling for Goff. I'll end the poll that I was running. Like quarterback, there's so few. We'll talk about it. There's so few guys that, like, I counted 5 guys that you're comfortable like stacking, like at least one guy with the bring back. Justin Fields is definitely just like a one guy. I think just because of ownership, I'm probably going to force somebody with Fields, because like I think a naked Fields obviously can get there. Um, but I think if he's paying off 6,500, he's probably bringing someone with him, especially at his ownership. And these guys, if Mooney and Claypool are both 5%, by the way, I'm getting like some steam for Claypool because like narrative is like slightly cheaper, and like narrative they're gonna mix him in. But yeah, I like Amonra as the bring back. I like Jamal. I like Khalif Raymond as a price leverage off of the other 4K guys. I think those are all very in play. And I would boost, if you're doing optimizer rules, I would boost Montgomery like a touch in your non Justin Fields lineups. Like if his projection is 13, base maybe bump it to like 15 or something when you're not playing Fields, because I think he provides really good leverage. And obviously, unless the Lions clamp down completely, I think it's decently likely Fields or Montgomery has a good game.
Yeah.
GM Pump, thanks for joining. This is a much less sexy game. Denver at Tennessee, 38 total. The big dog's going to get some ownership. Treylon Burks at stone minimum. Welcome back. We'll see how much he plays. I wonder if we're going to any news on that. Greg Dulcich is going to be the first or second most owned tight end. Really nothing else in this game.
Yeah, I think in this game you can use Greg Dulcich as a one-off. You can use him anywhere you want. I would advise in GPPs, just being cautious with that. Just 30% is a lot.
Yeah.
And then obviously the only two options on the other team are Treylon Burks. Just you're expecting 0 to 4 points. I think you said. I totally agree, but he makes pricing work. And when you put 3K plus 9.1K and then divide the points, there's a reason that it could
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So I see it. I don't like it that much, but I see it. And then Derrick Henry, and other than that, you just move on. I mean, there's nothing to say here.
Yeah, Traylon's
You,
just like
you,
your piggyback to get you to Tyreek. I do think there's a lot of like 1 or 2 catch games in Traylon's portfolio, but
yeah,
maybe you could sell yourself that they are like waiting for him to get back, and like because they just are not passing, especially with Malik Willis. So if Tannehill's back, there might be like if Malik
right.
Willis is starting, which I don't expect, but if he is, Traylon's expectation goes like way down, which like from 7
Yeah.
to I don't know what, but they're just not going to attempt any passes. Any
Yeah, I
interest in
think
like the Russ side or no?
in which side?
The Russ side, like Judy and Sutton are like, actually project like decent just because they're pretty cheap and like leverage off
I
of culture.
I have to admit that until you just said those two names, I forgot that those two players
Yeah,
existed in the NFL.
yeah, they're just
No,
lost.
I have less than no interest. Would it shock me if Judy or Sutton, went crazy against it? Kind of bad Tennessee secondary, no, but I'm certainly not playing it. Not for my money.
Yeah,
Not with this current Russ. And the Titans just lost a pretty tough game at Arrowhead last week, and now they get to go home and kind of pick on Denver, and
yeah,
I don't like it. I don't like the Denver side. The
yeah.
only interest I have in this game, really, aside from Derrick Henry and maybe some Dulcich, is just hand in the dirt, real life stuff. Like, I'm very interested to see Chig Okonmo take over that tight end role, but again, I'd rather be a week late on that than a
Yeah,
week
yeah,
early. So
yeah.
don't click that
Let's see
button.
that first. Yeah, let's see that first. Um, this is probably the most exciting game on the slate, but the field also agrees with that. Jacksonville's at Kansas City, 51 totals, number one. Kansas City projected for 30. 21 for a traveling Jacksonville team is actually not that bad for a 1 o'clock game at Arrowhead. You're going to get, primary chalk from Mahomes is going to be way up there. Juju, I think, is going to be pretty popular because it's hard to fit Kelsey, but Kelsey's going to get some ownership. Kirk, Zay Jones, ETN, all going to get owned. But obviously, for good reason. What do you like about this game or don't like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm stacking this game up on both sides. I don't like the Trevor Lawrence side as much just because Trevor Lawrence is just, he's not exciting. He's just not playing all that well, but he does have like that 2 touchdown rushing kind of upside kind of thing. Like, he seems to do that once or twice a season. He's done it once a season. So, there's a ceiling there. I don't know that he hits it, but I'm much more interested on the Patrick Mahomes side. And just looking at the sheet, I also forgot that Sky Moore existed. And I'm now,
3K.
it's a really interesting spot. Like, especially if you have like a guy like Treylon Burks getting 10% owned or whatever. Like, what is Kansas City going to do? Because Hardman was his usage was really good.
Scheme
And
touches too.
yeah, there were scheming touches. Like, he's a very valuable guy in that offense. So when he leaves, does it just consolidate a little bit more with Juju or Kelsey, which I think is the odds-on favorite of what happens?
Agreed.
Or does a guy like Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney get schemed and get worked in and get plus usage? Then if that happens, that's very scary to me because I have 0 of those 2 fellows in my lineups. And I may change that now that I'm scared.
I know you're talking on the Kansas City side. I think on Jacksonville side, I totally agree. Marvin Jones is a gold star, or maybe more like bronze or silver star, relative to Zay Jones. Like, they're going to be projected for the same. And I know Zay Jones has like been better this year, but like Zay Jones game that you're like, God damn, I really wish I had Zay Jones. Like, I don't know what does he go like 4 for 40 and he scores, like, seems like a pretty ceiling outcome. Marvin can get there. In a bigger way, potentially at 1/3 of the ownership.
I really don't like Zay or Marvin in this game.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just that's going to be the funnel for a ton of people. Like, this is the highest scoring game on the slate. They're going to want to save money because of Kelsey, Juju, Mahomes, stuff like that. I absolutely am sticking with Kirk, ATN, and a sprinkle of Evan Engram, but I am not finding either Jones working for me.
Yep. I'll get back to this, spoiler alert, but like, I really like building something like that. I will note the reason, like, I just show the top 3 projected value. Like, I think Kadarius Toney's raw projection is obviously better than Sky Moore's for 4 points, but Toney at 5K is just like completely unplayable for me. And feel like,
well, we just don't know. We just don't know.
I feel like
is it going to be a 3-man rotation of Sky, Justin Watson, and Toney?
Yeah, Justin Watson. It's gross, but Justin Watson, I would put in your pool in like a MILLY maker type. He's actually gotten, I mean, this doesn't do much for you, but the last 2 games that he's played, he's gotten 5.7, 7.4 points. Granted, on one of them was just a 4-yard touchdown, but I think like Justin Watson at like stone minimum does a lot for you on a Mahomes team.
Yeah, and they like him.
I wish
he's a do your job guy. Like, he just catches the ball, gets open.
I think it may be Mahomes, Toney. Like, if Toney has 18 points, that would be like a 95th percentile, and it's just like too much to pay like 5K. Like it doesn't even. I think if you're
Right.
right about Tony, it doesn't do enough for you for the
I
risk.
completely agree. I think an Omega ceiling is just not in the range of outcomes in this
Yeah,
current situation.
and like it's going to be unfortunate to be a week late to Tony because like you'll have never gotten paid off for being high on him.
Right.
But
Hey, we got our bags. We got our bags. They're all packed.
yeah, I don't think he could play him at 5K. And keep an eye out if McKinnon is out. That might even scheme more targets to Juju and like, yeah, Juju. I don't love Juju at 20%, but it's a good price in a good game.
Agreed.
Maybe the last super exciting game. Cleveland's traveling to Miami, 49.5 total. Miami is second best on the slate. Cleveland 23 for a traveling team is a pretty healthy total. You're gonna have DPJ at close to 20%. Tyreek. Tua might get a little bit. Amari's going to get a bit, but not a ton of like super prohibitive chalk ownership wise.
Yeah, this is an exciting game. Like, Miami, Coors Field South, right? Like they're so bad against the passing game, and but then you have Cleveland come in that's not known as like your aired out, air raid passing offense. I mean, they've been pretty efficient in passing, but by no means are they looking to air it out. Like they got a guy named Nick Chubb who's under 5% owned.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just makes for a very interesting slate for that reason alone. Like I think most people are looking at the passing side of this thing, and I'm not finding myself getting to too much Chubb, but I do have a little bit because why can't Chubb be the bring back and fall into the end zone 3 times like he has multiple times this season?
Yeah.
And then, on the flip side, Jeff Wilson Jr. sitting there at $5,500. You mentioned, is he the cabal steamed guy, the guy that comes in way over
Yeah,
just because of how his price access? I don't think so. Just because, I mean, I could see him rising to 8-9%, but there's no world where he gets steamed. So, and then the other, opportunity here that I talked about at the beginning with cash stuff is just, Tyreek Waddle 9,100 and then wide receiver 2 Jalen Waddle 7,600. I'm pretty sure Waddle is going to get a little bit forgotten about here, and he has a very similar ceiling to Tyreek Hill in that offense, and why not get some Waddle? I love it.
Yeah. I'm trying to build a mock of like if you do the Tua double stack, which I think is very live. It's just so hard to make it work. And if you want to do Amari instead of DPJ, you only get 5,900 for your running backs, which we talked about. Like the only people cheaper than that are, I guess you can even do Kareem Hunt, and then you have to get off of Harrison Bryant. But like, I really like this kind of build because Tua is semi-pricey, Tyreek and Waddle are pricey, and Amari. Like this combo is going to be very low owned for the ceiling that you get. I think just because you can't really fit it unless you go double tight end, unless you go Traylon Burks, unless you go punting for running backs that nobody else wants to play. But I think it's super, super live.
Yeah, I'm glad that you have Harrison Bryant because I didn't mention him. Miami's pass defense is bad, and specifically they're giving up a lot of points to his tight end position. And Harrison Bryant, there's a period of time where people are like, him and David Njoku are literally the same guy. Like they're both, they're pretty talented. They kind of get missed some weeks; they just don't get targets. But I think this is a week where Harrison Bryant is super in play. For not being highly owned and being under 3K and just helping things like a Tua double work, helping things like, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson. Just we got this expensive stuff, and a $2,700 tight end in a really good spot makes a lot of that stuff work.
Yeah. I'll say like his usage the first week with Njoku out was pretty disappointing. Like he didn't have much of a role change, but if that like maybe there's upside if that actually does happen, in the second week. So I really
Cleveland's one of those teams where they can just go big boy on you and play 6 offensive linemen, 7 even if you count a fat tight end and try and pound the rock. Like that stuff is in the range of outcomes in a Cleveland style offense. But I'm just saying that no matter what, Miami's going to get their points this week, and I don't think Cleveland's just going to be able to jam it down their throat, just run down their throat. So that should open up Bryant's workload more.
I will say the reason why you see DPJ is going to be 20%. If you go from Amari to DPJ, now you have 7K per for this running backs in this specific build. Obviously, you can swap it around. So DPJ versus Amari makes a lot more work if you're doing the double pay up. I think like this is a perfectly fine way to build. Also, you can go play Pollard and Kamara or like stuff like that. So like I think it's very live, but it's just more comfortable. So it just depends on how you want to play. I think Waddle isn't going to be super on. To me, like the combos won't be that high. I'm fine with DPJ in stacks. I'm less pumped about DPJ as a one-off, playing him into 20% ownership.
Yeah, and I think at higher stakes, DPJ is going to be higher. I think he's the most lucrative 4K-ish receiver.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, there's also Narrative Street out there with DPJ being the guy on the road that always gets you the 12 points, and Mari Cooper can't play on the road. And I would just be really cautious with his ownership stuff.
Mr. 12.1 DPJ with exactly 12.1 in 3 of the last 5 weeks, and then 11.6. I mean, yeah. That's why
Don't get me wrong, I like him, but it's a scary spot when he gets hella steam.
Yeah, that's why I'm not excited to play him as a one-off, because DPJ 12 points is like fine, but you can very easily fade 12 points at chalk. We spent a bit of time in this. Are you playing any Jacoby? Does he make that like?
This is my cutesy. I'm playing a few. I got to support Blender and Cap.
Yeah.
That's
saying Mac Hollins. Yeah, I think they're both going to be relatively owned. It's tough to decide between them for me. I think Mac Hollins has shown a ceiling. In like, if I had to choose one, I think I'd go Mac Hollins as well. Trey is super, super into Jacoby week.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, if you just go, from two, like, are you playing Jacoby with Tyreek and Waddle? I think people have been getting cute lately. You play like Justin Fields with Tyreek and Waddle, but like I don't think Jacoby with Tyreek and Waddle really makes as much sense, because like if Tyreek and Waddle pay off 91, 7,600, then two at 6,700 is going to look cheap if Tyreek and Waddle both get there.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting there on Jacoby. When I play Jacoby on my runbacks, I am using 2 runbacks, but it's typically Jeff Wilson Jr. plus a receiver, or a receiver plus, Prince Sherfield.
Kareem Hunt, we talked about earlier. Kareem Hunt is live. Chubb, nobody's clicking. I don't know that I'm going to click it either.
I have a little bit, just because for that reason alone, no one is clicking it, and he can just put up a 30 burger.
Yeah. Houston at the Giants, 41 total. The New York Football Giants are 5.5-point home favorites. Pay out that bet for whoever had it, but the Houston Texans are absolute trash, despite my love for Dameon Pierce. Saquon and Dameon Pierce are going to get, a good bit of ownership. If you good luck playing anyone else from this game.
Yeah. I have very little Dameon Pierce. There's some lineups that are just, super contrarian, where that 6,300 just works really well. So I will play a little bit. It's not a full fade, but I do not like me some 18-point team total, 32% plus Dameon Pierce. I just don't think a ceiling is there. I mean, obviously super talented. He could just bust out and suddenly their offense is really good and all that, but I just rather press the deposit button than to be there for that in this spot. Daniel Jones is an interesting side of this. This is another one where I called it getting cute a little bit. Like, just because he's that sneaky rushing floor, and I say sneaky, everyone knows Daniel Jones will run the ball some, but just sneaky as in on this slate, nobody's talking about like Daniel Jones rushing floor usage and stuff like that.
I think he'll be under that.
Yeah, I think he's 5% or less. And then Saquon is like, all season long we've seen these what do you call them? Advertisements or whatever. Houston's defense against RB1 is just giving up the entire universe. And now you bring in Saquon, who's one of the most talented running backs in the NFL,
Yep.
and he's in a smash spot. His projection is good, and
Yep.
allegedly he's over 25%
I
owned,
don't see that
and not
either.
a single person in the industry is talking about him. Now
Yeah.
again, he's 8,600, but so was Big Dog when he put up 38 and a half
Mm-hmm.
DK points.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love Saquon in this spot.
Yep. If you're playing dimes, I prefer
I'm
Wandale over
Saquon
Saquon.
Hudson. I
Yeah.
don't like a receiver.
I like Wandale. 4,700 is not a great price, but like maybe he gets there. I think that he's fine. Are you playing? The reason why I don't think Saquon's going to be super owned is if like Damian Pierce gets to 30-40%. Like not a lot of people like playing running backs in the same game. Are you going to
Right.
allow? I know you're low on Pierce, and I
Right.
think for goodish reason. Do you allow Pierce with Saquon together, or you don't care? You just like to
No,
hold out if it
no,
happens, or you don't like it?
no, I do not like it. I'm not playing it. And I'm also anything that I do with the Giants, either dime stack or Saquon or Hudson, I have no run back. I have no Houston.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
have Pierce where he works in a certain couple of lineups, but I'm not doing any Houston stuff.
Yeah. Brandon Cooks 5,300. If you like Brandon Cooks at 5,300 this week, you're gonna love him at 5,100 next week, and then 4,900 the week after that, et cetera, et cetera.
There's
Um,
just no ceiling. There's just no
yeah,
ceiling.
it's tough.
Brandon Cooks could easily put up 15 points, and if that helps you, cool. But
Yeah,
he's
I
not going
agree.
to wreck a slate.
I agree. This game with a 40.5 total is somehow getting like somewhat consensus steam from a lot of sharp guys. The Saints are going to Pittsburgh, 40.5 total. Kamara's going to get some ownership, and then you kind of have a free pass to play almost whoever else you want. There's some like JM was talking about it, and I think was it Wiggins or Dink mentioned Pickett and Pickens like coming off the bye, the rookie stuff like Chase Claypool moved out, you know opens up a little bit of scheme targets for Fryermuth, for Pickens. So I think I definitely have some GPP interest here, but it's hard to feel comfortable about, a Kenny Pickett double stack with a 19.5 point total.
Yeah, like when JM did this, and I think even before JM did it, you might have mentioned it. I've heard a couple, or Pete did on a different show. I kind of wanted to like it, I wanted to like, because you could build a narrative easily, right? They had a bye week, which, is something for DFS people, I think, to keep on their radar. Teams typically, look and make their bigger adjustments or bigger changes or things that could work out. And, guys rest up a little bit. And, so what are the changes in Pittsburgh? Jalen Warren is going to take over a little bit more of their rushing game, but what exactly does that mean, right? Like, is that going to be a 50% split? Is he going to, it's very murky. And then Kenny Pickett, like, what kind of a ceiling does he actually have? It's
Yeah.
all cute, but I found myself as the week went on being not interested. The best story I'm telling myself during the off week is TJ Watt is back, baby. The
Yeah.
2021 Defensive Player of the Year. There's no doubt that their defense is very, very different when he's in the lineup and
Oh
when
yeah.
he's not in the lineup.
No,
And then
he,
you add that with the bye, and I think Steelers are a very sneaky 2,800 defense. I'm not going to tout a defense, but I'm just saying when
the
you're down
2,800.
there, yeah, when you're
Yeah.
down there,
Uh-huh.
New Orleans is not going
Yeah.
to blow anyone out. I like the Steelers defense. I'm
I have a
not
feeling
interested
that
on
is.
anyone from New Orleans. I could see Olave having a good game. I don't really want to play that at 6,800.
Yeah.
I don't like Camara. I will say one thing is for New Orleans and for real life, I think Jarvis Landry helps them out quite a bit, just in terms of being this like old reliable possession floor guy that can never get a ceiling, but he just helps their offense work because otherwise they're running out like Traquan Smith and Raheed Shaheed and all
Yeah.
these weird guys, and he probably is going to help their offense be a little bit more efficient. But again, do not play that in DFS.
No, no,
No,
no.
no
That
interest.
was way too much time spent talking about Jarvis Landry, but uh, I like Pickett. I like Pickett doubles. Even though he actually has a little bit of a running floor, like the guys are cheap enough and this slate is open enough that if you get like 20, 15, 20 points each from, Pickett and the two guys that you play with him, I think that does a lot for you. I like Kamara as the bring back there. You can definitely play Kamara into chalk on a, on a Steelers stack team. I like Fryermuth gets you off of the cheaper chalk tight ends, and the 5K receivers is like kind of a dead zone. I don't think anyone's really clicking that. Olave, I wanted to be on like just buy Olave at 4%. The price is obviously not comfortable, but everyone knows that. So I think Olave is very in play. But like Olave versus Kamara, there's some price difference, $600, but like Kamara's projected for 7 more points. So I don't know. We'll see how much Olave I end up on, more in GPP, like Millie Maker stuff, than like a 5,000 person field. I'd rather just play Kamara because I think, Pickett and double stacks are going to be low enough owned. You can eat, the Kamara chalk. And I like the Steelers D call. Don't spend a whole lot of time on defense. You just who you want, but like home team in a low total with a mistake prone QB leveraging Kamara chalk, I think it's actually pretty sharp.
Yeah, especially considering Arizona's 2,700, and I've been informed that they're the chalk defense.
They are.
Why not pay $100 and get some upside with the Steelers defense coming out of a bye? Because who gives a shit?
Tim has arrived. I'll leave the light on for Tim in the corner here for Tanner Hudson. Watt is back, but they lost Minka. I don't know. I think Fitzpatrick is a huge playmaker, but I think most would agree if you swap out a playmaking safety for like one of the best pass rushers in the league, it's probably a slight net benefit.
And run defender. Like TJ's a baller, dude.
Yeah. So 4 p.m. It's something to keep in mind. There's only 3 games at 4 p.m., which is actually one more than there was last week. None of the games are exciting, but some things may open up and we won't know. So I think you gotta start thinking about how you get different at 4 p.m. Indianapolis at Vegas, 40.5 total is actually pretty low, I think, for this kind of game, even though both teams probably want to lean into the run, but I might IKB and bet the over here. Derek Carr may be on the fringe of like the guys you can talk yourself into stacking, but Josh Jacobs is going to get some ownership. Foster Moreau is going to get a ton. Matt Collins, I think, is going to get a ton. But, Devontae is going to be pretty low owned. Jonathan Taylor is going to be pretty low owned.
Yeah. Early in the week, I really wanted to play a bunch of Jonathan Taylor. And as the week has gone on, I'm getting some. Like, I'm going to play some, but it just the price and the things that I want to do is just not working out to where I'm getting a whole bunch. But I do think Jonathan Taylor is in an interesting spot. The Colts are bad. They haven't been able to move the offense, Ellinger. But, there's a coaching change to an offensive lineman. And
oh, yeah.
He also literally may be an offensive lineman as opposed to a coach. Like, he probably doesn't know anything about coaching, but he does know about offensive line. And I do think there could be a narrative where the team gets fired up. They get a new coach. He just wants to establish it. He runs even when they're down or whatever. And, JT could be a smash. Will that happen? Who knows? I have no interest in any other player on the Colts, including tight ends. I don't care. And then on the Vegas side, this is my last cute stack. I'm going to stack a little bit of Derek Carr because I think that's the one way that people are not going to play this game is to stack Carr with Adams and Moreau and bring it back with Jonathan Taylor, things like that. And again, it's cutesy. I don't recommend it. I'm not high on it, but why not? And the last thing I'll say is I don't know if ETR projects guys like Keelan Cole. I guess it's on here, isn't it?
Yeah, he's on here. Yeah,
but I have him projected for more than Treylon Burks.
Okay.
Food for thought for a 3K guy if you want to just get different.
Yeah.
You're still looking at your 0 to 5 points probably.
Yeah. I think Devontae Adams, if he's around 10%, I could see that maybe like it's so hard to get up all the way up. So I think Devontae Adams ownership is going to be capped. Like he's definitely not going to get like above 20. Because Matt Collins, I think Matt Collins and Foster Moreau are going to be in like 30, 40% of lineups, and then you're not going to click Devontae Adams there. Same with Jacobs too, honestly. So I think Jacobs could come in a little.
He's going to be lower.
People have been less excited to play Jacobs the past like 2-3 weeks versus when he was smashing. But yeah, I love Jonathan Taylor at 7,500. I don't know that it's like an amazing spot, but Vegas doesn't scare me. And if Indy gets to their 18-point total or even exceeds it, like where do you think that that's possibly coming from? So I like Jonathan Taylor a lot at 7,500. Obviously, maybe he's going to be a little banged up, but if he's playing in like effectively a lost season, you have to just assume that he's healthy enough to go and be Jonathan Taylor. I'm happy to be proven wrong there. But yeah, like I've been playing car stacks because like his weapons always project well and he doesn't.
Right.
I'm wondering if that is a good or bad way to play DFS because like you're going to stack him with guys that are chalk-ish. So like you're just like leveraging a bet on Derek Carr. I don't know, but this slate, if any, is the one to do it because there's like we've talked about so few quarterbacks that you're comfortable. Like who has a ceiling to get you 25 points in this slate? It's like 5 guys.
Right.
GM to Dash. So Dallas at Green Bay, 43 total. Surprise is one of the higher ones on the slate. Dallas is a pretty big road favorite, 4.5. Probably who would have seen that coming like a month or two ago. But Dak is back. Tony Pollard, I just refreshed. His projection is slowly climbing. CD Lamb, like there's not going to be a ton of primary chalk here because it's not like a super exciting game. But in the context of the slate, I think this game is actually more interesting than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, when I pull up the sheet here and I look and I just see, this game, it makes me think like, why aren't I playing any Dallas Green Bay stuff? But
Yeah.
I think what it is just, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers just look so terrible. And they want to use the clock, they want to run the ball, and it's going to slow this thing down. And then when you get to the other side and you see that CD Lamb's ceiling apparently is like 19 points or something like that, where like it literally just can never be exceeded. And, it just equals like kind of move on pretty quick from this game. But in a vacuum, I mean, I really like Robert Tonyan. I think that Tonyan and Lazard are clearly Aaron Rodgers' targets of choice. Like he would prefer to get them the ball. Now you got Romeo Dobbs out, so like, does that mean Christian Watson is finally a thing for Tim, or
Is he
does that
gonna?
mean Sammy Watkins? Like, I
No.
don't think anybody knows. Well, I think we do know Sammy Watkins probably can't play football anymore. Like, I think Davis has the television weight at 250 for Sammy Watkins playing wide receiver. And then on the other side, I mean, the Green Bay Packers are a bad team, but they're not the Bears defense. Since, I think people are going to get cute with Tony Pollard. I think that's a mistake. Like, I don't think he's just a plug and play guy against Green Bay that, just gets there on that ultra efficiency, because he is only going to touch the ball 15 times ish in this game, no matter what you think about it. And Dalton Schultz, I mean, that is Dak's boy. Like, if there's ever a week where Dalton Schultz catches 2 touchdown passes and 8 passes, it's this week. So I'm starting to regret not having more Dalton Schultz. I like that.
Yeah.
Little Schultz Lazard mini to get me some afternoon action. Give me it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I don't know that I can bring myself to click Aaron Rodgers. I've been clicking it a lot this year.
No, I can't.
Aaron Jones, if we had a clean bill of health for Aaron Jones, I think he makes sense. But I love Alan Lazard at 5%. Like, give me all of the Alan Lazard. Like, I know Micah Parsons is a beast, but if Green Bay scores any points at all, and you hope that they do at home, like I think Alan Lazard is one of the best paths to do so, especially with Romeo Dobbs out. Tony Pollard at 6,500. Like, everyone's been building with Dameon Pierce. I think Tony Pollard is projected below that, rightfully so, because he's going to get 5 to maybe even 8 or 10 touches fewer than Dameon Pierce, but they're projected to score 6 more points than the Texans.
Yeah, they are more valuable touches for sure.
Yeah, and Pollard is good. They are going to give you're going to be frustrated when you go in the box score and you see Tony Pollard can go 16 for 99 and score and get a couple catches, and then you're going to be like, why do they give Mike Davis 8 for 16? Like, why do they do that? Or not Mike Davis? Is it Mike Davis?
Sir. It's Malik, sir.
Yeah, I'm confused with my Ravens, Dusty Balls, but yeah, and I think Dak is quietly in play. 6,600 is a gross price, but he's one of the few QBs on this slate that I think has a path to 25 points, which I think does a lot for you. And I think CD, I'm not excited about, but he's not going to get super owned, and Dalton Schultz is good leverage too. So I like a Dak double as well. But that's one of those like I'll play it. I don't know that I recommend you play it type things.
Right. I think I made one of them just for the lulls. But
Yeah.
I don't feel great about it.
Last game is much less exciting when you're looking at Colt McCoy and Jen Walford. Nobody's really going to get owned here because of that. The total's at 40.5, and I don't know. I might need to update that. It might even be less now with those two QBs. Are you clicking anyone in this game?
No. Early in the week, just seeing Tyler Higbee down to 3,600, I thought,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm going to play some Tyler Higbee at 3,600. And as the week has gone on, I haven't clicked a single name in this game. And I also don't have any fear or interest in clicking a name from this game.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I don't know what to say. I mean, who knows? You know, I mentioned this earlier in the week mostly as a joke, but Stafford has been so bad. Like, you know, is there a world where Walford comes in and just makes the offense a little bit more efficient and actually work? I probably don't think so. I don't think any backup QB is coming in and just dealing with the onslaught that Stafford has dealt with this terrible offensive line. There's no way a backup comes in and just handles that, you know? So DeAndre Hopkins, I've been on for like ever since he's been back. Like he's just been such a boss. Like their whole offense runs through him, and that's kind of opened up Rondale Moore, and some things can work there. But Cliff Kingsbury is just an absolute idiot, and B, Colt McCoy. I don't know, what does this offense look like under McCoy? I don't know. I have no interest.
Yeah, I'm not scared of anyone in this game beating me. In the 4:00 only slate, I'm probably going to click some Kyren Williams at this stone minimum 4K and just like see what happens. And if he gets you 6 points, it actually might even be enough. Also keep it in mind, like if you're starting with Tony Pollard, let's say like you're starting with Tony Pollard in lineups and then for some reason Zeke is ruled in, which I do not expect. I would try and leave two guys on Tony Pollard teams when you can. Like Lazard is a decent pivot, but like you could get like weird stuff. Like let's say you start with Pollard and Mac Hollins, and you want to get super weird, you can go to like Kyren Williams instead of Pollard, and then you have, 2,500 to go up from Hollins to, I don't know, someone to 6,700. I don't even know if that Lazard or something. The defenses, I will say, the Cardinals were going to be fairly chalky, even with the Vikings defense in play at 22, but now at 2,700, the Cardinals are like the pre-built defense. I really like your point about the Steelers just to get different.
Yeah, and I will say that I like people giving themselves afternoon options and stuff like that with slates and really being concerned about who the swaps and the pivots are. This is one of those weeks where the combination of it's a smaller 10-game slate, it's efficiently priced, it's kind of a weird slate. I'm just making my rosters the best rosters I can, and if that has me not with too much afternoon stuff, I'm fine with it.
Put user in timeout, remove. Hide user in this channel. Look at that. Easy is self-moderating. Don't go to watch NFL Live because there's nothing you really need to watch. The Bucks are just kicking the shit out of Seattle. Stay here instead. So I teased the giveaway. We're gonna do our fuck around and find out. But to enter the giveaway in the chat, just go to just type in hashtag FAAFO, aka fuck around and find out. As Ori figures out, just put in hashtag FAFO. Who your fuck around and find out play is, and I'll get in touch with you. I'll run the giveaway, and whoever wins, get in touch with me on Discord or somewhere. I'll Venmo you or find a way to send you virtual money. But Ori, lead us off.
All right. Well, my name kind of gave away. I'm going to give you two fuck around and find out plays this week. The first of which is one Darnell Mooney, who I refer to as D-Money. Darnell Mooney has 400 receiving yard games in his career. 2 of them are against the Detroit Lions. If you look at him in 2022, these last 5 weeks, his usage just keeps going up. He keeps getting more efficient. And I think there's a world where Justin Fields running has opened up some passing. And this is the week that Darnell Mooney gets out there and gets 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Fuck around and find out D-Money. And then my second play.
Whoa.
What?
Come on, man. Let me get one in.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to steal from me. Yeah, Mooney, I think, especially because like Claypool is going to be higher owned. I think Mooney makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go at the opposite end of the price spectrum, going all the way up at running back to the highest price running back on the slate. Saquon Barkley,
Oof.
8,600. We've been waiting for this. Is like maybe the biggest like home favorite of Saquon's young career. 23-point total, 4.5-point favorites. The scores that the Houston has given up, they've given up to running backs 15, 20 and a half, 18 and a half. Or sorry, this is Saquon. He's got 15, 20 and a half, 18 and a half, 19-6, 21-2, 22-6, 33. Tennessee gave up 39 to Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs. They gave up 35 to Eckler, 34 to Khalil Herbert, 30 points to JT. Like, this is the smash of all smash spots. Like, it's just insane. And no one's going to click it. I think you might get him at 15%. I'll try and get a little more off the board for my others, but I think Saquon is a smash and you got to get him in there.
I am going to fuck around and find out about Saquon. I love it. I absolutely love it. My second play of the week, Nate is kind of spoiling it a little bit, but it's actually not just Jeff Wilson Jr. It's a mini stack. It's Jeff Wilson Jr. across from Amari Cooper. Fuck around and find out. I don't care about Narrative Street. Amari Cooper on 3 teams plays like shit on the road. He can't sleep in his hotel. Blah, blah, blah. DPJ is good on the road. Fuck all that. It's noise and it's a coincidence. And there is a stat out there that Amari Cooper versus man coverage is like getting a 35% target share in those situations. Miami runs like 95% man coverage. Fuck around and find out. That's the mini stack. Jeff Wilson Jr. is a price option, but also I've told myself a story that he's Mike McDaniel's boy. He's going to take over. Raheem Mostert is going to be the off the pace,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a home run hitter. Like, he's your Tony Pollard kind of guy. But Jeff Wilson about to eat. So fuck around and find out, y'all.
Wilson with Amari. I like that.
Yep.
My second one, they're both like second tier chalk, but I'm just going to give you the full onslaught here. It's a Mahomes double with MVS and bring it back with both Etienne and Kirk. Just fade. You're fading Zay Jones and Marvin Jones, and I'm going to just keep fading Juju. I'm playing Mahomes with Kelsey, with MVS, with Etienne, with Christian Kirk, and just saying on a 10-game slate, just stack up the one good game like all the way. And like, I think MVS gets you a little bit different.
Can I just say one thing about why I love that? You're talking about 5 of your 9 slots. If you get that game right, if you smash that, like, not a lot of people do it, and you've just knocked out over 50% of your roster. So I love that kind of stuff. And the field doesn't play those stacks enough. That's what the data
better.
shows.
Yeah, and I think it's better in a small field, or small-ish field, like, a couple thousand entry. Like, but you could definitely be live in the MILLY. I mean, you had on a 14 game slate or whatever it was. You had Seattle, Detroit. You had 6 guys in the MILLY, like, or maybe it was even 7. No, I think it was 6. But why can't? I think Mahomes pays off 7,900. He's bringing more than just Kelsey there. I like the Mahomes doubles a lot, and this is probably where I'm going to go. So thanks everyone for joining. If you can drop like on your way out, I'm going to run. This is like maybe the best EV on the slate is to do the hashtag fuck around and find outs because people are too lazy to type in 5 letters. So here we go. Steven Sims with I hope that Tim wins because of his Steven Sims pit DST. All right, I'm going to run it.
I just wanted to get the chat going with my FAFO. So if I win, just redraw. I'm not eligible.
All right. I'm drawing it.
I'm rugging myself before you rug me. Can't deal with it emotionally. Brian. Is that Brave Sir Brian?
Brian, reach out to me if it's Braves. Hit me up on Discord. You know where to find me. I don't know if you found this place not via Discord. Hit me up on Twitter at EricZ116. DM me. I'll find a way to get you paid out. But if you are on Discord, find me there. Anyway, thanks for coming by. Maybe we'll, if I don't get absolutely buried and give it all back this week. Maybe we'll run another giveaway for the people next week. Thanks for coming by. Good luck on the slate. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.